Hi everyone. Today I've done a short video tutorial on lists. Lists are a type of sequence. So first I tell you what is a sequence. A sequence allows us to store multiple values in an organized and efficient fashion. So whenever we have certain values that are related to each other, then instead of storing them into different variables, we can store them as sequences. Strings, lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets are the 5 most commonly used sequence types. And today we are going to discuss about lists. So list is, just as the name itself indicates, is a list of values that have been organized in order. So the first thing that we do here is that we create a list. So I've created a list here. Now list, as you can see, can contain strings. It can contain numbers, that is both the int type and the float type, and we can easily print the list using the print statement. So when we run this, we get the output over here and it has printed the list. The next thing that we can do is we can access the values of this list. So for example, I want to access the element butter over here. So I can type L1, that is the name of the list. Now in this case, the numbering starts from 0. So butter is present at the 0th position, and therefore I write 0 over here. And for example, in accessing this, I actually want to print this element. So I put the print statement there and I run this and I get butter printed over here as expected. Next is updating the elements of a list. For example, if we want to change a particular element of the list, then that is possible in case of lists. This is very different from the case of strings, where once the string has been declared, after that it cannot be mutated. That means any of its element cannot be changed. But in case of lists, that thing is possible. So for example, if I want to change the value of 2 over here and make it 3, then I mention the position of that element, that is 1, and I make it equal to 3. And to see whether something has happened or not, I print this list again. So we see that it has again printed the list, but this time at the 1th position, that is this place, we have 3, and that was the modification we made. Another thing about lists is, like other data types, even lists can be passed into functions. So I create a very simple function here. Say that the function prints the list itself, and it takes as an argument, say L, and we can simply call, or what we can do here is, let's say that it prints the first element, so _1, and so here I'll print the first element, and now I can call this function print _list _1, and I pass this list, that is L1. And it prints the first element, that is butter. So you can also pass lists as arguments into functions. This is a very simple function that I've created. More complex functions can be created, and this property of list can be used, and it can be passed inside a function. Now there is one interesting thing about lists, that is, if I have a list and I create another list, let's just see how does that work. For example, I have a list A and it contains 1, 2, 3, and I have another list B and it contains 2, 3, 4, or let it be 4, 5, 6. Now I say that C is equal to A. So what this is going to do here is that if I print C over here, print C, then C will be printed, which is same as A. Now another thing over here is that if I modify A over here, then C will also be modified. So for example, I make A 0 equal to 5, and now I print A and I print C. So we see that whatever modification we had performed in A has also been performed in case of C, and therefore it has been printed as 523. So these are the basics related to lists. We have documentations over here, and inside the documentation we can go to lists, and there are many functions over here which can be used in order to perform different tasks on a list. It must also be noted that there are functions of strings that can also be performed on list, and this is because both are sequences. Next, I've created a very simple program over here to generate a shopping list. I'll just run it and show you. We can enter item that we want to see on the list and press enter, so that item added is butter. Next, for example, I enter egg, so item added is egg. We can find a particular item, so it will tell us the position where we have found this item. Next is we can also remove an item like this, so you removed egg from your list. And finally we can generate the list, in which case the list will be generated, which contains only butter. So I'll just show you how I have done this program. Obviously I've imported simple GUI. Now I've created a shopping list. Now this list is a global variable, global data type, and I have made it empty, and I have made a global variable I equal to 0. There is this input handler, that is a text input handler, and this one is to add items. And if the shopping list dot count is equal to 0, that means that if that item is not present in the list, then we will be adding that item. Dot append means that we are going to add that item at the end of the existing list, and then the statement is printed. And if that item is already present, that means this value can be 1 in that case, and if that is already present, then we'll type item already present. So we could just try that. For example, I type egg, and then again I try to put egg, so it's going to say item already present. The next thing is item find. So here we have used this function dot index, and this is used to find the item. It tells us the position at which that item is present, and finally we've printed the position. Now it must be noted here that I have printed position +1, because the position that will be returned over here into this variable is going to be starting from 0, because the list, it starts from 0. So if, for example, that position is 2, it actually, if we see in common sense terms, it is actually the third position. So I've added +1 over here. Next is item remove. So it's going to whatever item you type, it's going to search for that item, and it's going to remove that item from the list. Next is there's a button handler. Now to generate the list, I've used a timer, because if I wouldn't have used a timer, if I would have simply written print list, in that case it would have used the square brackets as well as the comma to print the list. And for example, in this case, I want my list to be printed not with commas and square brackets. So what I've done here is that I've created a timer with this timer handler defined here. What it does is that there's a global variable I which it accesses, and it is going to keep incrementing this global variable, and it is going to print the shopping list I-1. That means that particular item. So that is going to be printed over here. And if we have already printed all the items of that list, then in that case this condition will be false and the timer will stop. This is going to ensure that we do not create an error. of trying to access something out of bounds. That means if a list contains 5 items and I try to access the 7th element, then that is going to generate an error, and therefore to avoid that thing, I've used an if-else statement here. So this is a very simple program using list, and it has used some functions that have already been shown in the docs. I'll just show how this thing works once again properly. So I add egg, I add butter, I for example add bread, I add jam, and then I want to find and I want to confirm if I've added butter. So I find that item and it tells me that's position 2, and for example I want to remove eggs from here, so I remove that, and finally I generate the list. So there is butter, bread and jam. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you.